So what is one thing you think kids should know about water conservation?
If they don't worry about the big word conservation, just think about none of us like to waste anything. We don't like being wasteful. So why would we waste water? But I didn't really explain well to you why this natural resource is constrained in Florida. So where do you think we get our water from? When you turn on the faucet, where's that water coming from?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
That's me, Tiberius.
And welcome to the Tiberius Show today, and I'm your host, Tiberius Boy. And as always, we're looking at various jobs and how they affect the world around us. Today's guest is going to be very interesting. We're going to talk to a water conservation coordinator. Do you have any idea what water conservation even is? Well, I think I do, but you know what? Let me just talk to this lady and find out for sure. Let me introduce our next guest, the one, the only, the amazing Deirdre Irwin.
I don't think I have ever been welcomed so warmly. Thank you so much.
Well, no problem. Well, thank you for being on the show. Okay, so a lot of my listeners have no idea what a water conservation is. We live in Florida, which is surrounded by water, but what is water conservation and why do we need it?
So water conservation, when you think about it, and actually you raise a really good point, it's even harder to explain the need for it when you live in Florida with how many inches of rain do we get?
A lot.
52 inches on average every year.
Oh, wow.
We are surrounded by lakes, rivers, springs, the ocean, so why would we need to conserve water? Another word for conserve would be to save water. To not waste water is even better. So water conservation is all about using water wisely, not to waste it. And it is a hard message in Florida when we've got all this rainfall and everything.
Yeah. Okay, so Deirdre, it looks like you've been doing this for over 30 years. How did you first get interested in this field?
I think when I was your age, if someone had told me you're going to be a water conservation coordinator in Florida, I would have laughed because I didn't know what it was either. And I didn't know I was going to end up living in Florida. I'm from Ireland, which is part of Europe, where it rains all the time and there's no such thing as water conservation. So I kind of just morphed my way into it. I had a degree in biology. I worked for the Water Management District to do with wetlands, protecting wetlands. And then I love doing outreach and education, and it just evolved into water conservation, and I love it.
So it says here that you started as a compliance regulatory scientist. I think I got that right. Well, it sounds like you tell people what they can do. Exactly.
Correct.
What does a compliance science do?
We call them regulatory scientists. We have both engineers or biologists, and they help the public figure out what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do in wetlands in Florida, and in their subdivisions with a stormwater pond. So it's a lot of reaching out and helping people, making sure they don't break any of the rules or violate our permits.
So how do you know which areas are wetlands and which are all normal land?
That's a very good question because there's a whole science to that. And actually my husband's entire career was doing what we call wetland delineation is a job. It is figuring out where the edge of the wetland is. So if in Florida we protect natural wetland areas, meaning that at some stage they are wet, they have a certain number of species that are on a special list of wetland species, and they might or might not hold water, they have a special soil type. So there's a whole science around determining what is and isn't a wetland. And Florida's done a remarkable job at protecting these areas over the years.
So does that mean that someone could buy the land and not be able to do anything with it?
And that was my first job, was telling new people who had just bought land where they could build or not build. Sometimes they will be allowed to do some work in the wetland if they can find a way to make up for that damage or loss. But yeah, a lot of my time was telling people, yeah, you just bought 10 acres of swamp and it's going to be expensive to get a permit here. But I liked being the one to tell them and explain the why and all of that. So those early years of my career, I learned so much about communication and all of that.
So what was the most challenging part of working in compliance regulation?
Telling someone who just bought 10 acres of wetlands that they probably couldn't afford the permit even to build a house on that land. So what I actually did was partnered up with the county. I worked in Volusia County, and we started sending letters to the realtors who sold the land to the people. Every time we saw land for sale, we'd send them a letter saying, it appears that this land located here has wetlands. Please inform any purchasers of this because they will need a permit. That meant legally they were obliged to, the home buyer could go after them for not disclosing. They have to legally disclose that. So I kind of enjoyed finding solutions too.
Oh, okay. So later you got into being an education coordinator. What inspired the change?
I think it was because I loved the outreach and education part of my job, and I loved working with children. So I really believe the key to an awful lot of environmental protection, water conservation, is educating the youth to learn correct behaviors when they're young, and those behaviors stay with you the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah. So, Deirdre, it says that you taught Project WET in classrooms. What is that?
WET is Water Education for Teachers. It's an international curriculum, and it's based actually out of Montana. And we became the sponsors of Project WET in Florida. We're still doing Project WET. And instead of us trying to go out to every single classroom in 19 counties, we would host workshops for teachers, give them the books, and they would turn around and teach these really fun activities to their students. So it kind of helped get the word out faster.
That makes sense. So what is the best part about working as a water conservation coordinator?
I do love the outreach. I still love working with children. I love learning new things and new ways that people conserve water. You always learn in this job, and I like learning.
So what is one thing you think kids should know about water conservation?
If they don't worry about the big word conservation, just think about, none of us like to waste anything. We don't like being wasteful, so why would we waste water? But I didn't really explain well to you why this natural resource is constrained in Florida. So where do you think we get our water from? When you turn on the faucet, where's that water coming from?
Water silo?
Where?
Reservoir?
A reservoir, so a surface water big pond? No. Guess again.
A water silo, like nearby.
No. So
Septic tank.
I hope you're not getting your water from the septic tank.
Kidding.
So in Florida, we are blessed. Remember I mentioned rainfall and lakes and springs, and think about a spring. Where's that water coming from in our spring? You're going to Wekiwa Springs, you jump in, and all this water is pushing up from the ground. Where do you think that's coming from?
No idea.
It's called the Floridan Aquifer. An aquifer is an underground storage area for water. So do you know what kind of rock underlies Florida? It's called limestone. It's a very soft rock, porous, full of holes. Over time, water breaks down and makes caves or caverns. We are blessed to have this source of free, clean water from the Floridan Aquifer. However, as we've become more sophisticated in measuring how much we use, how many people live here, we now know that source is becoming constrained, meaning we're starting to run, it's not like it's going to be empty, but we are legally obliged to protect things like Wekiwa Springs, certain lakes, rivers. if we pump, and they're all connected to the aquifer, if we pump too much water and send it out to businesses and homes so that Wekiwa Springs gets lower and lower and lower, we'll be in all sorts of trouble with the state. So our scientists at the district, not me, but other people who are very much smarter than me, do a lot of measuring of how much water is coming out of the aquifer to springs, how are we impacting rivers and lakes. If we start seeing that those surface water bodies are struggling, we start looking at, I wonder how much water is coming out of the aquifer. So we now know that this Floridan Aquifer in most of our water management district, which is all the way from the state of Georgia down to Cocoa, Brevard, west to Ocala, Gainesville, the huge 18 counties, the aquifer is now what we call constrained. It's in a little bit of trouble. It's not empty. It's not going to be empty. Guess where the water comes from in the aquifer?
Where?
Rainfall. So if it suddenly stopped raining, yes, the aquifer would start going down.
Drought.
So the reason I'm explaining all of this is to explain why this great cheap source of water is constrained means we have to change our behavior. It's not like in Florida we're going to run out of water and where are we going to get our water from? We have some other options. None of them are as cheap as the Floridan Aquifer. So like many other things you learn in life, it's about the money.
Well, here seems like a good time to take a quick commercial break. Let's hear a word from our sponsors.
So you want to make an ad for your company, right?
Yeah, Tiberius, you want to help me?
Okay, so what's the name of the company?
PPWND.
PP what?
Professional Pressure Washing and Detailing.
So you like clean driveways?
Yeah, like that. We pressure wash commercial buildings and semi-truck and trailers.
So how would someone get a hold of you?
They can visit my site at ppwnd.com or call me at 407-900-7793.
So I just tell them to call you at 407-900-7793 or visit ppwnd.com?
Yeah, Tiberius, you got it.
Cut! That's a wrap! Just use that.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
And we're back here talking with Deirdre Irwin, water conservation expert, and she developed a certification program.
Not all on my own, but many years ago, around 2000, before you were even born, the Water Management District decided, what could we do to help builders build homes that use less water? So we developed the Florida Water Star Certification Program. So it's like you're earning a star for your house by doing this program. So we worked with the University of Florida, with builders, and we came up with a list of things a house should have in order to be a Water Star house. So now it's been around now for almost 20 years. We work with builders, we teach the landscapers how to install the irrigation differently so that these homes perform much better than a typical home.
Okay. So is it that like instead of teaching kids in classrooms, like you teach adults and they get a certified award?
And guess what? Kids listen better. Just saying. It's really enjoyable to teach children. Teaching adults, you've got to explain why. You've got to explain the purpose of what you're saying, and you also have to listen to them. One thing we did with WaterStar was we asked builders, is this affordable and achievable? Will this work in how you build homes? And we kept tweaking and tweaking the program to where it was something they could do fairly easily. So it can be challenging, but it's worked.
Well, you said that the kids listen better, right? Why don't the kids get awards?
I'm thinking about different programs we've had over the years. Well, You don't get an award to learn this in school because the Florida Department of Education was very forward thinking many, many years ago when they developed the standards for education. You have to learn about water conservation, about wetlands. You have to learn where your water comes from. You were not listening that day. And you have to really, it's built into the curriculum. So we harness that and we help teachers teach it better.
I mean, I remember reservoirs and aquifers. Now I'm thinking back to like 6th grade, but
Yeah.
man.
Starts in 4th grade is when you learn a lot of those natural resource things in Florida. Because Florida is an amazing state with biodiversity and it's a really cool place to live. So it's important to the state of Florida to teach our young people the value of where we live.
So what made having an accreditation program important?
At that time, the idea of green building was really popular. Builders wanted this extra award for building a special house that maybe saved energy or saved water. So we just followed the industry doing this and created our own. Now, however, because we have science, University of Florida has researched our program. We're able to quantify the actual savings of, say, if 100 homes did WaterStar, how much water they'd save. So on average, it's about between 40 and 50% water savings in one of these homes.
So what are some of the biggest water challenges that Florida faces today?
Some of it is education and outreach, helping think about all the newcomers to Florida who don't know we have an aquifer, we have constraints. And the biggest challenge for the average homeowner is that they do not understand how much water they use to water their yard. So starting in the 90s, homeowners started putting in automatic irrigation controllers, our systems. So underground pipes that go to a pop-up that sprays water all over your yard. Fabulous. With a timer on the wall, you just set it and forget it. Well, guess what? It rains a lot in Florida. You don't need to water every day. You don't need to water even 3 times a week. Guess how much the average irrigation system uses in one cycle?
How much?
1,000 gallons.
That's too much.
Approximately. Well, it's the appropriate amount for the average yard. Our goal is, based on science again, to put down 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of water in the landscape. And if you set your timer to go off 4 or 5 times a week, you're putting down 5,000 gallons. All that water is just going down. It's not helping your plants. In fact, it can make your grass look worse. So our biggest challenge is helping people understand turning off their irrigation system. That would be my biggest and toughest challenge.
So what is one simple thing that every kid can do today to save water?
I think becoming aware of how they save our wastewater. When a child gets up in the morning and goes in the bathroom and brushes their teeth, remembering to turn off the water when they brush their teeth is huge. That is a behavior that will stay with you for the rest of your life. And guess what? Your dad might notice, your mom might notice, and they're like, ooh, we've been letting all that water run down that we don't need to. So when you're soaping up your hands, brushing your teeth, turn off the water. That's a fabulous behavior for the average child.
So not flushing the toilet doesn't help?
No, we are very lucky to have flushable toilets. We live in a country where we all have toilets. They should be used appropriately. So they should be used when you go to the bathroom. However, speaking of toilets, don't get me started. One of my nicknames way back was the potty queen, because I love talking about conservation with toilets. Maybe looking at how old your toilet is. Maybe with your mom and dad lifting the lid off your toilet and seeing if that rubber flapper is leaking. And one of the gifts I brought you today is a dye tablet. You can put a dye tablet in the tank of your toilet and wait. If blue water comes into the bowl, your flapper is leaking. $5 to change a flapper. It's a silent leak you wouldn't even know you had. So looking how old your toilet is, checking your flapper. If you are thinking of getting a new toilet, check with your utility. They might have a rebate to help pay for that new toilet.
I don't even know how old I don't even know what model my toilet is.
I can tell you how to find that out. If you lift the tank carefully on the back of your toilet, stamped on the back, it's legally required how many gallons per flush. All homes built in Florida cannot use more than 1.6 gallons per flush.
I didn't even know that.
Yep, but guess what? So if yours says 3 gallons per flush, it's time for a new toilet. We are helping with our builders, with a bunch of other people, encouraging the use of these new toilets that use 0.8 of a gallon, half of what building code requires. And they're magical. They are pressure assist toilets. It's like, phew, everything goes down, no flapper, and they perform very well for years and years and years.
Huh. So, Deirdre, what's the most misunderstood part about your work?
How much water you use in your irrigation system. That running that system wastes so much water, or, this might be hard to explain, but let me try. There is a perception out there that grass is the reason we all waste water. We have too much grass. I have yet to see a piece of turf grass crawl into your garage and turn on your irrigation system. It's the human behavior that's usually overwatering the grass.
Ah, that makes sense. So, what's the best advice that you've ever received, and who gave you that advice?
You know, like I said, I'm always quoting research. I love learning new things. I think the best is what I have learned from these new tools that are on the market that help quantify how much water we use. So they help us figure out how much we're using at home. How would you know to cut back on your water use if you didn't know how much you were using in the first place? So again, I keep talking about University of Florida, but they have developed this fabulous tool called H2O Save, which allows a utility, the people who provide you your water, it allows them to look at a map of every home in their area. It's color coded by how much water you use. So if it's dark red, that homeowner is using way too much water, and they can help educate them. So I think what I've learned most is that it's not straightforward. Don't assume people understand how they're wasting water, and that with some education they can change behavior.
So, why would a kid want to grow up and do your job?
Well, they might never think about it. Most people who end up doing water conservation end up starting somewhere else, learning about it, learning that it's a career option. There's no degree in water conservation. It's people who work in this field come up from all sorts of background disciplines. What we've learned is you need to be a good communicator, a good educator, understand that water conservation is kind of a social science of behavior change. So it's helping people understand that they can make a difference by changing behavior. But the kind of weird thing about it, it gets a little obsessive. You get obsessed with new and different ways to save water and teaching people and measuring it. So it's a kind of career people stay with a long time because they get obsessed with helping people to save water.
All right. Well, on that note, let's take a quick break to pay some bills.
The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of their dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering to trophies and awards. The cool part about Custom Designs is they can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373 and tell them that
Tiberius
sent you.
Over 40 years, Lighthouse Central Florida has provided education, independent life skills, and job training to thousands of Central Floridians who live with blindness or any degree of vision loss. Whether it's picking out clothes in the morning or just moving around your community and serving Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties, contact Lighthouse Central Florida at 407-898-2483 or visit them online at lighthousecfl.org.
And we're back here with Deirdre Irwin, water coordinator with the St. Johns River Water Management District. Wow, it's long. So how large is that district? I mean, I thought the St. Johns River was far away from here.
Well, it's not very far away from here, but the St. Johns River is 310 miles long. The source of the river and the start of the river is down in Indian River County, way south of here. And what's weird about this river is really, really unique. It flows north. Most large rivers actually flow south. The St. John's flows north and goes into the ocean in Jacksonville, 310 miles long. What's even more amazing is how slowly, it's a slow-moving river. It only drops, I think it's 60 or 70 feet from its source to the mouth of the river. So that's why you hear about flooding a lot, because when it floods here in central Florida, remember it still has 200 miles to go.
Yeah.
And it's moving slowly. So it's hard for, when you live in a mountainous area, the water moves really fast.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a long time to move that water out of here. So our water management district, what's really cool about water management districts is they're set up on hydrologic boundaries. Do you know what that is? It is the river basin of the St. Johns River. So when it rains, if that water flows into the St. Johns, that's ours. So it's, in terms of landmass, that's all are part of 18 counties. So there are tributaries, little rivers that flow into like Wekiwa, Ocklawaha. We get those too. We get all that land around them. And here in Orlando, it's kind of cool actually. 3 water management districts come together. The boundaries are right here in Orlando. So just south of downtown is the headwaters of the Kissimmee River and the Everglades.
Huh.
Whereas it's also the St. John's district where it goes all the way up to Georgia almost. So.
Huh. So what was that one thing that happened in your career that you just didn't expect?
To be doing a podcast in Orlando and sharing my experience. I'm joking about that, but yes, I never would have envisioned. I didn't know what a podcast was when I was younger. I think how this sounds like I'm kind of sucking up, but how great it is to work with a whole team full of professionals and do this work jointly and feel supported by each other. Quite honestly. That's why I've stayed there 33 years.
So do you think AI has a positive role in your field, or will it create more issues or lose people's jobs?
I think we're all just getting a handle on AI. It really doesn't, I don't think I'm going to lose my job because of AI, quite honestly. But it is beneficial in that it gives us ideas of saying things differently and maybe better so we can communicate better. So that's one way I see it used. But I think like everyone is discovering with AI, you have to double check everything, make sure what it's saying makes sense, and the human factor so that we are communicating correctly.
Okay, so if I, a kid watching right now, wanted to grow up and do your job, what skills should they work on developing?
Okay. Probably English, math, biology. History is always important to understand the history of why we are where we are today. So everything that you learn in school pretty much. At the Water Management District, we have many different careers. So we have people who maybe specialize in chemistry or biology. We have lawyers who end up going to law school and helping us write better rules and represent us. So, but for water conservation, I would say your English skills, your math skills are really important.
Okay, that works. So, Deirdre, on your off time, besides finding ways to save water, what are your favorite things to do for fun?
I enjoy landscaping. I love working in my yard. That sounds like an old person, I know. One of the things I like doing, and I just recently moved from North Florida to Central Florida, is I have a very standard yard with lots of turf grass that I do not overwater. And I am trying to add lots more species, native species, for butterflies and bees and our native bugs and critters, because some of those are struggling. So I love landscaping. I've been enjoying this summer watching all of these bees that are visiting my plants.
So, do you play any video games at all?
Nope, I was too old for that. My
Any
kids all did it.
books?
I do like to read.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm always have a book going or 2 books going.
Okay. So, what was the biggest mistake that you've ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard one. What was the biggest mistake? I tend to focus on the good, and I feel like you learn really well from mistakes. So I never look on them as being a bad thing. One of the great things of working at the district, we've all been told we all make mistakes. Just you might have to own up to it. So I look on mistakes as a way to learn.
Okay. Now, can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid's show. That one story, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on, you can tell me.
Okay, well, I do work with toilets a lot, so oh, no, I have a good one. Last year, I was leading a training of other educators from the Extension Service on how to correctly inspect an irrigation system. And that sounds very exciting, but we were there's a control box in the ground for an irrigation system. I'm like, okay, everybody gather around. We're going to open the valve box and we're going to look at how to turn on and off the water. I opened it, they're really stiff. You have to pull really hard, and all these rats jump out of the valve box, and everybody screamed and backed up. And yeah, sometimes you get spiders and sometimes snakes, but I was not expecting the rats. Yeah, that was not a good day. I don't think any of those people will ever want to inspect an irrigation system.
Okay, so is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you and what you do?
I think, first of all, don't be scared or intimidated that I must find this special job or I must do this. Things have a way of working out. And then also to be creative. Use your creativity. There's no right way to do a job. When I started this job, there was no real instructions on how to do it. I was able to develop it myself based on my skills. So be creative and trust your own abilities.
Well, do you have a Facebook or a website for my listeners who want to follow you?
I post a lot on LinkedIn. That's probably not for children too much. I try and put a lot of landscape pictures and water-related pictures on my Instagram, and everything is just under my name. So that would be everything. All the others is boring kid pictures, so I wouldn't subject you to my Facebook account.
So what is that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
Let me see. I think you did really well in developing very good questions. One thing I didn't have time to cover, I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail, is what are we, other than conservation, what are we doing to protect the aquifer and the springs, rivers, and lakes?
What are we doing?
We have a whole bunch of scientists at the district who are evaluating scientifically the best and cheapest approaches to go to what we call AWS, alternative water supply. So one of the most promising ones here in Central Florida is, guess what? We have the Floridan Aquifer. We have another aquifer under the Floridan Aquifer. So we have figured out a way to drill wells deep enough to the lower Floridan Aquifer. First we tested it. It's clean water, it's safe water. It's just really far down there, over 1,000 feet.
Are we going to end up drilling into the Earth's mantle at this point?
No, they're not that far. But we are so lucky in Florida to have these options.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and every area is different. Like if you live near the river, you might be able to pump water out of the river, clean it up, and use that water.
So it's not like the Fountain of Youth or anything, right?
No, it's not. Definitely not.
Well, thank you, Deirdre Irwin, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
I'm a little afraid. I know I keep saying math is important, but it doesn't mean I'm particularly good at it.
Okay, that's okay. We're fine.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
Well, thank you, Deirdre, for helping me with Math Corners. This week, we're going to learn some more multi-step word problems. My dad is always good at finding new problems for me to solve, and today, we're going to talk about watering your lawn.
My favorite subject. Yay.
Okay, so Sarah waters her lawn 3 times a week. Each time she waters the lawn and uses an average of like 1,000 gallons of water. That's a lot of gallons. I mean, how much water does she use in a year? And how much would she save if she only watered once a week?
Well, she would save 2/3 of it. If you think about 3 times a week, going to 1 time a week, that's 2/3. If she, in a year, I have a question for you. Does her irrigation system have a rainfall shutoff device?
I have no idea.
That is required in the state of Florida. It's a little device that's up on the side of your house, and it will automatically turn off your irrigation system if it rains.
Huh.
So we average between 20 and 30% of the time your system doesn't run. So you save water automatically if your rain sensor is working.
Huh.
But in a year, she's probably using, 50 to 150,000 gallons a year. So can you imagine if taking 2/3 of that away? Then if 100 would be 100, so she's only be using 50,000 in a whole year.
Well, let's see what the computer says. Well, this is a real world problem because you do have to budget our water use in Florida so we can save on water. And so first it's to take the 1,000 gallons per time watering the lawn, so that's by 3. So using 3,000 gallons per week. Now times that by 52 and you get about 156,000 gallons of water in a year. That's just for your lawn. I mean, so if Sarah had reduced it to just once a week, that would be 1,000 times 52 or 52,000 gallons. That would save, well, subtract 52 from 156, 104,000 gallons a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty nice.
That's pretty awesome. We want lots of Sarahs.
Mm-hmm. So, Deirdre, do you think reducing to once a week would be smart to not only save the water, but also the money on their water bill?
Oh, absolutely. Water is not getting cheaper. So a way we can all save money and save water is to water less outdoors.
Well, my teacher said that I would use math every day. How do you use math with your work?
Doing the exact kind of problem that you just presented to me. Sometimes, like a homeowner association will reach out and they'll tell me how much they're using in a month. So we have to look at all the area they're irrigating and do the math of the square footage of the land and tell them how much they should be putting out there. Not just, sometimes gallons is too big a number to understand, so inches works better. So if they're meant to put down 1/2 inch of water once a week, if people can understand that a little better.
Well, thank you so much, Deirdre, for your help with Math Corners.
You are so welcome.
And now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we always talk about the qualities of living by the Heart of a Lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. This week, we're going to talk about leadership. Why not? For me, I think leadership is the act of loving what is good, having self-control, and being disciplined. The qualities of leadership are providing guidance and direction, organization, and being a positive influence on others. Well, being a leader doesn't always mean that you're the boss or the person in charge. Leadership's about setting a good example and encouraging others to do the right thing. It's about being the one who steps up when everyone else is looking around. For example, in my school's broadcasting class, we had a group project. A lot of the kids were waiting for someone else to start, but then one of the girls stepped forward, divided up the jobs, and encouraged the team. Suddenly, everyone was working, and the project came out great. I mean, I know that's leadership. A true leader doesn't just give orders. They listen, they guide, and they help others succeed. So when you show leadership, people trust you and want to follow your example. So remember, to be lion strong, you can show leadership by being brave enough to go first, and kind enough to encourage others, and strong enough to take responsibility. And that's how you make a difference. So Deirdre, do you have an example of leadership that you saw this week?
Leadership that I saw this week. We were working on a project which was actually a media project. We have this cool thing called H2O heroes, people who step up and do something amazing, and they are leaders in their community. So we were filming a video about this gentleman who has saved all this water for his community because he stepped up and he cared enough to do it. And what I got to observe was our media team showing leadership and organization and running this whole thing, because I was a little intimidated about all the cameras and the with this gentleman that we'd come across and ask all the right questions. So I saw leadership in that team that really impressed me.
So Deirdre, of all of the Heart of the Lion virtues, which is the one that you see the most?
I think integrity. Where I work, you don't work for the water management district because you want to earn tons and tons of money and you're going to be a millionaire. You do that work because you really care. You care about your coworkers. You care about the environment that we're working in and protecting the environment. So I see tremendous integrity in the people I work with.
Well, we should always try to be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Absolutely.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Deirdre Irwin for being on my show. It has been so much fun talking to you today. I think we learned a lot about your work as a water conservation coordinator and all the work that you do.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Well, do you mind giving your social media and website again?
It is just my name, just Deirdre Irwin. So the challenge is to spell my name correctly, and you'll find me on LinkedIn. DeirdreIrwin. Correct. Our Instagram. I like to post lots of pictures of landscapes on that one.
Well, also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show, and I would like to thank WWPR 1400 AM, KNT 98, Soul Radio 24/7, Easy Way TV, and all the other stations that air on my show. And please be sure to visit The Tiberius Show on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. So, Deirdre, are you subscribed yet?
I will be as soon as I leave here.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. Well, this week, Third Side Convo says, way to explain a complicated subject. And Student Veterans 6070 says, love the taxidermy show. So thank you everyone for your comments, and be sure to leave a comment on my videos. I may even mention yours at the end of the show. And also, be sure to listen to us next week on the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.